Steve, how are you?
Wonderful.
Are you?
Yeah, I'm pretty good.
Okay.
I didn't
All
play the
right.
game.
All right.
Yeah, what the
All right.
heck?
Yeah. All right. All right. All right. Okay. It's time for another therapy session with us. So hope you're ready for that. We have a lot to talk about. In fact, we have so much to talk about that we are splitting this week's podcast into two episodes. You're going to get the usual football talk, you know, primarily Penn State focused here, Michigan, Rutgers, the OC change. Um, but then tomorrow, if you're listening to this on Tuesday, on Wednesday, we're going to release our sports media segment for this week, which is an interview with Amanda Gifford, who is essentially in charge of production for college football at ESPN. She's a proud Penn Stater. It's a great, interesting interview if you enjoy behind the scenes stuff when it comes to college football. So encourage you to check that out. That'll come out tomorrow on Wednesday. Um, but in the meantime, this is the Stuff Summer Says podcast with
Steve,
Steve. All right, Steve, like I said, we've got a lot to look. You're all right. You good?
I'm just making sure the
Okay.
water's getting a little
Okay.
hoarse,
All right. Get through there. All right. So we've got a lot to talk about, Steve. Okay. We got the Michigan game to talk about. There might be some news in the offensive coordinator room that we probably need to talk about. We will probably spend most of our time talking about that. And then, oh, yeah, there's still two more football games left this year, including one against Rutgers on Saturday. And then this week's old guy, young guy. So here we go. Where to start? We're going to start with the Michigan game. If you just want to, here's what my take on the Michigan game is. Go back a few weeks ago and listen to the Ohio State podcast that we'd had, and that will tell you everything that I feel like we witnessed again on Saturday. Felt like deja vu all over again, Groundhog's Day, both in the microcosm of just this season, but also the Groundhog's Day in the macrocosm of Penn State football over the last 5-6 years. That's about where I'm at with it. And there's a lot to dissect. There's a lot to go through. But I see Steve's already eager
No,
to.
no, no. I don't think you're wrong, but Michigan, it didn't feel worse, but they did it a different way, right? They're like, screw you, we're gonna just run this ball at you. We're gonna pass the
Yeah,
football 8 times, right? And complete 7 of them, and we're just gonna beat the living snot out of you and wear you down. And that's who they are, right? Like that's
right.
which wasn't a surprise. And Ohio State was like, we have better talent than you on the edges, and we're gonna beat you with that. So they got so Penn State lost both the possible ways with the those two teams are better than it. So I think the end result feels the same, but I think the trip getting there,
Okay,
it was like
that's
whether or not you took the expressway or you took the down through the
okay.
city streets. It was just the path there was different, but the end result was kind of the same.
All right. I hear that, and I respect that. I disagree with you. I don't know. I can't argue with the fact that, yeah, Michigan just ran the ball at Penn State, and Ohio State had Marvin Harrison Jr., and that was about it. So
Right, right. That's all.
I think that's the biggest. That is probably the biggest difference to me. Again, though, yeah, yes, Michigan ran the ball at Penn State. Penn State only gave up 24 points,
Mhm.
and for as explosive as Penn State's preached, as good as the quarterback's supposed to be, and then of course we'll get to this probably a lot deeper in the offensive coordinator discussion. You know, the play calling was not there, and I think that is why we're sitting here with Penn State not having Mike Yurcich as their offensive coordinator anymore, because it didn't make sense. There were times that things were working and they got away from it. There was the tight end game, which have been Penn State's two most reliable pass catchers, only getting 35 yards of the 70 yards that Drew Aller threw for on the day. There's the fact that Nicholas Singleton started and he's not been the better running back. Like I'm just gonna say it. Like I don't work for Penn State. I don't work on Penn State's roster. I don't coach Penn State. Give the ball to Katron. Like he's the better running back. He gives you a better chance to win. Is this about hurting feelings or is this about winning football games? And it should be about winning football games, and that's where I'm at with it. So those were my major gripes of that. And then there was also, of course, like the two big decisions to kind of cost Penn State, right? There's the 4th and 6 down still only by 1 score, and running a play that clearly nobody knew what they were supposed to be doing because Drew just kind of threw the ball somewhere and it was nowhere near a wide receiver, in my opinion. And then there was, of course, the going for 2 on after the second touchdown, the late touchdown, which takes you out of the game if you don't get it. If you do just get the 1 point, you can kick an onside kick. You also still had 2 timeouts. It's not impossible that you can get the ball back with 30 seconds. In college, you get the clock stops on a first down, use the sideline type thing. It just didn't make sense. It to me, that's why I was probably the most frustrated, and that was the most frustrating stretch of decision making coaching from James Franklin I've experienced quite some time, maybe since the Illinois game in 2001. I don't know. That one really
2001?
frustrated, or 2021. Sorry.
Okay.
That one really frustrated me.
Yeah, and I think the first half too. Stop it. I mean, stop chasing points in the first half. There's no reason. I don't care if you have analytics staff. I don't care. It is the first half. Kick the extra point. Everybody in the stadium. We've talked before about how much people don't know about football, the intricacies and this and that. They know kick the point. Kick the point, make it 14-10, and worry about the other one later. It's too early to be worrying about that. It just is. And then that sets up the dominoes for the rest of the game. I mean, some of them.
Yeah. No, I have said this before on this podcast, and I've said it to friends, and it's like kind of half in jest, but it's almost like James Franklin. This is a bizarre take. I am sorry, but it's almost like James Franklin should spend 2 days, 3 days in the summer when he's got nothing else going on playing Madden, and because you learn basic time management when you play Madden. I know it's crazy. I know it's bizarre, but it goes back to chasing points in the first half. In the moment, I wasn't that frustrated with it, but in the context of then going for it later for 2 when you didn't need to, that really riled me up on Saturday. So I don't know. Oh, I think the game itself was frustrating. It to me, like I said, felt like deja vu again. And I think, I think the other thing again is this defense is it's hard to say it's wasted because it's probably maybe kind of won the Indiana game, right? Like, but if Penn State's offense is 80% as effective as Penn State's defense, I think they win the game. Like I think they win. Penn State wins the football game. And I said the exact same thing to you after the Ohio State game.
Oh, I guess that's why they have a new offensive coordinator, or at least why the old one's gone, and they're going to have 2 new people sharing those duties now. So we'll go from something that didn't work to something that may work because it's convoluted and we trust them and we love them and they both want to be here at Penn State. There's lots of subtext, and now I'm moving us to the OC. So I don't know if you're ready or not.
No,
there's lots of subtext in the aftermath. Like, oh, these guys have been here. We get, like, you hear people like, talk, the players trust them and whatever else. Well, was there not trust? I mean, just that kind of silliness that comes out that you say that you end up overthinking, perhaps. But yeah, they're going to beat. If Penn State doesn't win the last 2 games, then that's not good. Like, then there's
real problems.
It's exactly. I don't think it matters who the interim would be or who the next 2 are. They should have enough talent and enough motivation and enough whatever else to win the final 2 games. So, and I think they could have won them with Yurcich here, but I guess if you're going to get rid of him, do it sooner rather than later so the numbers don't look good at the end of the season and people wonder why you did it. But I'm not sure. I think unless whoever's in the position is doing the plays the head coach wants them to do and agrees with, then it's still not going to work.
Well, okay, let's walk this through because you hit on just about everything that I wanted to hit on there. I think let's talk about the firing, right? Like, let's talk about that just from the standpoint of it coming Sunday after the Michigan game. I think you're 100% right that fans would, I don't know. I don't know if you're 100% right on that. Now that I think about it, I think people would still be understanding. I think right now, doing it now gets the pressure off your back a lot faster after losing to Michigan and really blowing your last shot at the
Right.
college football
Right.
playoff. So I think that's why it came now. And I think that, but also, like I said and wrote, like John Donovan got to the end of the season and he was far worse than Mike Yurcich. And and I don't know. It was ballsy for James Franklin to do, and I will commend him on it. Unfortunately, he had to do it, so I'm not going to commend him on the hire in the first place. And the irony isn't lost on me that Kirk Shiraka is coming into town this weekend too, which is the guy that he hired or fired to
Yeah,
get
but
to this
realistically,
guy.
at this point, they've been through enough
Yeah,
offensive coordinators. You're going to bump into them any place, anywhere now, right? Like,
yeah,
because the
yeah,
Rocket wasn't Minnesota, but I mean, it's yeah.
yeah. No. So I think that was interesting. And I think we have talked about learning moments for James Franklin over the last really, I think ultimately this year, in a lot of ways, until that Michigan game primarily, was the culmination of he seemed like he was learning his lessons, and then kind of the coaching decisions in the Michigan game stopped that momentum, and then firing Mike Yurcich after the fact picked that momentum back up a little bit, just a little bit though. So that makes me, as a Penn State fan, sleep a little bit better at night. That being said, what doesn't make me sleep better at night or is confusing to me and was bizarre was out of the press conference today, and you hit on it there. There was a comment about collaboration, and I think he actually used that word maybe a couple times. And it sounded like Mike Yurcich was kind of over in his own world, own element, and he was doing his own thing, and nobody could kind of talk him out off that ledge or off that plane. And it's like, well, okay, but James Franklin, you're an offensive coach, like you're a wide receivers coach, like you were an offensive coordinator. What do you mean? What do you mean he was kind of doing his own thing? And I thought that was weird, based on all of this. Like clearly there was a schism, there were some issues that we're never going to know about. But it was interesting to hear him say, like, he was, I think, I forget who asked the question. He's flat out asked, like, were there times that plays were not called or plays were called that you didn't want and vice versa type thing? And he said yes. Like he flat out said yes. And I don't know. It was
Yeah,
bizarre.
yeah, it doesn't matter to me if your previous experience was as a defensive line coach. If you're the head coach and that's happening, if it happens once, it happens once. If it happens the second time, then you solve the problem. And maybe that's what this is. Maybe this was because otherwise it just doesn't make as much sense. I'll give you if you know you're going to do it now so it doesn't linger. But unless the offensive coordinator was in some way disrespectful, right? Or just yeah, like it just doesn't make sense. And it almost sounds like that's at least
I
that was
think
what he
that's what it
hinted at, right?
was. Well,
No?
he hinted at it. Today is Monday, today in the Monday press conference, but he said almost verbatim the same exact quote he said against Ohio State after the Ohio State game
Mm-hmm.
in the Michigan post-game press conference of, we didn't call the right plays to get him into a rhythm. And it was bizarre because, like you said, like there is a file and rank to college football coaching, and if James Franklin wants something, he should get it. And it's
And if he's
frustrating
not
that
and the person's being insubordinate, okay, then I guess
yeah.
you press the button, right? So I mean, again, we'll never know. I still think it feels like it's the head coach's decision on when to, go for two or not.
That one, yeah,
Those
no,
kind of things,
that's
so and those things cost as much. Those little things, for as close as Penn State is, for as far away as some people feel they are, logically they really aren't. Unfortunately, I mean that's the struggle. Unfortunately, they aren't. They're just the third best team in this conference, and maybe the third best team in this conference going forward. Because the division thing changes next year. You don't get Ohio State, and Michigan, but that doesn't still mean somebody might not be better because you get Oregon right back in the
right.
conference and those kind of things. So
No, I think about that. I was thinking about that a lot. I was thinking about the even the Iowa, like, please don't get bored with this grinding it out game plan. Like, there's a lot of little things, and that was one of the other things I wrote down here, kind of like on my notes, is you kind of piece together some of all of this context. And Rich Carcella had a really good friend of the podcast. Rich Carcella had a really
There you go.
good column today about, he was kind of surprised it didn't happen sooner. And when you piece together, even like that Wisconsin, that first game of Mike Yurcich's career, where Penn State did not look explosive, did not, and really had to only win on the back of one explosive play. That was weird. And then you look at the play calling, particularly in the overtime, the 9 overtimes. You look at, even that Michigan State game. I was trying to find the quote. If you were following along on Twitter, I was trying to find a quote. There's a quote out there from someone in Penn State's players. I think it was a player, said something to the effect of, I don't know, you're going to have to ask the coaches why they decided to keep running the ball. And I think that quote kind of was like ringing in my head. I don't know. It's going back to your initial point of the, like, with 2 more games, like, I think that's kind of, we as Penn State fans got blinded by the scoreboard being so high that we didn't look at the underlying statistics, right? Of okay, they beat out these teams, but they're ranked one of the worst teams in the country in explosive plays. Okay, they really have had a few 10-win seasons, hopefully even this year, but they still lost the 2 that really mattered the most. And it really boiled down to the offense kind of just not figuring it out type thing. So it's one of those, like, hindsight's always 2020 things, but yeah, like, maybe it was time, and maybe that's why you do it now. It's easier to pull the trigger now. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean that's the story. I guess that, I mean, again, we won't ever know whether there was, what was or wasn't going on. I mean, it still feels PR wise, it just feels panicky a little bit and creating noise that you don't need to create. Right? I mean, they could probably patch the things behind the scenes and people would never know the final 2, but that's what you're going to do. I guess go ahead and make the decision, and it's helpful for the coach, right, to have someone that have a move to make after those losses. And we'll see what happens next.
I think that's a good segue into, like, what comes next. And Penn State went out and probably, Lord knows what they spent on Manny Diaz on top of his Miami buyout to get him to come be a defensive coordinator in a landlocked state where he preciously loves his boat, and probably likes the warmer weather of Miami much more. And that happened really under the Pat Kraft era. And well, no, it didn't happen on the Pat Kraft era, did it? No, it didn't. It did not. Sorry. But it feels like Penn State's willing to spend more. So, like, is that what they're going to do here? Is that, do you go out and you spend a crap ton of money on an OC that you think can elevate the program, more importantly, elevate the quarterback? Because I think that's the key piece to all of this. And even Franklin, like, kind of hinted around, like, we're going to do something, but we're not going to do it because of the quarterback. We're going to do it for the quarterback, type deal. And I don't know. I think if Penn State's kind of figured out recruiting, which I think they recruit well, like, regardless of who's been on the staff at any time, come and go, I think Penn State's always recruited well. Do you go just get an OC that's good at being an OC and good at coaching quarterbacks, but not necessarily the world's best recruiter? I think that's maybe what you go do. But I'm still not convinced that this isn't just going to end up in J1 Sider's hands at the end of the day. Because I just, it's starting to feel a little Brent Pry, James Franklin, like they're tight like that. I don't know.
I don't know. Don't know that I honestly care, right? Like, I mean, I think find somebody to do the job and let somebody do the job for a little bit, hopefully. The cynic in me looks at it and says, okay, 6 offensive coordinators. What's been the same this whole time? Clearly, it hasn't been the offensive coordinator, right?
Right.
So, I don't know. I'm hopeful for the program that they find someone that they think is excellent and puts them in the best, best staff, best players, excellent sports success, blah, 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 blah. Still got to win 2 games a year. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just going to come down to that. And games like this week, in the whole scheme of things, don't matter to some fans as much because they are assumed, right? They had that whole thing. Coach Franklin had the whole thing. Oh, people assume that. Yes, unfortunately, you're in a position where it's assumed you are going to win 10 games a year. Got to figure out a way to win 2 more.
Let me ask you this. What would you? And I say honestly because I want you to ask me it back. But what are your thoughts on Joe Moorhead coming back?
I think that'd be fine. That'd be fine. What about you? You don't want him to come back?
I don't want him to come back.
Okay.
I don't.
I don't think he will. Like
I don't think
I
he
don't
will.
I don't think you see a lot of that where people go and come back to where
Mm-mm.
they were. I mean, I'm sure you could pick out examples of it, but I don't think I don't know. I would be surprised, I guess.
It's about how I feel with it too, and I
And he wasn't Franklin's OC, right? He was OB's OC
no,
or not?
he was
Franklin's
Franklin's.
Franklin's
Yeah, he
coach.
was
Okay.
Franklin's.
Oh
I
yeah,
think
because
that
he went and talked to him and the whole Holy Cross thing and the recruiting, blah blah blah.
yeah,
Yeah. No, I just thought I would be surprised.
I don't think I think I would be surprised too, and I don't know. It's hard to look at that sample size or that sample data when you have Saquon Barkley on your roster, right? Like that was
Right.
prime Saquon. So I don't know. Those are my hot takes for today. Um, okay. I feel good. You could get everything out there. Need to be said on offensive coordinators
Yep.
in the Michigan game.
Yep.
Ready to
Can't wait
move
to see what
forward.
happens next. It'll be exciting.
Okay. Um, let's talk about Rutgers. Here's my hot take on the Rutgers game. It's probably gonna make Steve a little angry because I know this isn't our job and it's not my job. I don't get paid by Penn State's ticketing office to do this. But I'm gonna say this: if you are selling your season ticket for Saturday's game, right now I think they were $15 on StubHub.
Oh,
What? Very cheap.
yeah.
Chances are, if you can afford season tickets, you can afford the $30 that you're gonna lose out on in this idea that I have. Maybe just ask around, hey, family, hey, people that my neighbors, I know you like Penn State football, but you don't get to go very often. Would you like my tickets? Because I don't know,
You
they're
don't
probably
think
gonna be
people do
better
that?
used. I don't. I think people are too selfish, and I think people are just gonna try to get $10 out of it. And I think you should just give them to a better home. Essentially, is what I'm saying. Not a better home, a home that might not get to go to a Penn State game as often, and probably would still enjoy it. Probably more than you are going to enjoy it because you're just going to
But
sit
not
on the
seats
couch
for
and
service
grumble.
members, but like seats for sometimes
Seats
fans.
for seats
Sometimes.
for. I can't afford to spend $400 a weekend on a Penn State football game, but I can't afford to spend $100 on a football
No,
game.
I think, well, it'll be, I'll see what comes up on like little Facebook groups around us. If people sell them or give them away, right? Like I'm very much, okay, I bought it, but I can't make it. As long as somebody's in the seat, I don't care, right?
Right, that's what I'm saying here.
So yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't do that. And it'll be one of those weekends, right? The students are not going to be here in those numbers because it's start of Thanksgiving break. It's Rutgers, even though we have a bunch of kids from New Jersey. Like I would be surprised what that student section looks like on this coming Saturday. It's hunting season, right? Like we're getting in, with Pennsylvania, right? So,
That's a good point.
oh no, that's next week. No, I'm a week
No,
ahead. I'm a week ahead.
okay. Well, but people go still like I
Yeah, but you won't
distinctly
have those big
remember
numbers. No, I'm a week ahead.
people
Sorry,
go,
Hunters, I'm a week ahead.
but people still go to
But I
scout
think
out their place.
Penn State, I think just the students will be the only light part. I think other people will show up, and
You
Rutgers
think?
tickets might spill out. Yeah. It'll announce as a low number. It'll look right. The number they announce will be bigger than what's in there because they will have sold the tickets. They will have sold the student tickets. I don't know. I think Penn State fans show up because I think Penn State fans, the vocal ones who were complaining about, well, it shouldn't have been the OC, it should have been the coach, you should do something else. I think they are afraid to eat the money. They're greedy. They might not be greedy, but they're afraid to lose it, so they're still going to come to the game, right? Like, go ahead and make a statement and don't show up. Like, I don't think Penn State fans in my time have ever just not shown up to make a statement with their tickets, and they're not going to. The team it's going to win 10 games this year, so they're not going to do that. They're going to come. They're going to tailgate. Weather's going to be decent-ish, 50s and cloudy. Now, people, I'd be
Okay.
surprised if it was really bad, other than the students.
Okay. All right. You're more You are more
I
optimistic
know
than
it's
me
scary. I
about
mean,
it.
that's really paying off, isn't it? Right? Like,
Oh, okay. All right. No, I that's fair. I think that you the the interesting thing to me is the vocal minority and how it's going to rear its head, because I think we're going to see a little bit more of that. And I think, like I said earlier, I think the OC firing calms down 50% of that, 60% of that. Um, but I don't know. I'm interested by attendance, because I think people, I just get this general vibe of people are upset and tired of this game meaning nothing, essentially, once again. And I just would like to see those tickets go to somebody that is gonna use
So
them and have a
basically, we're
good
both
day.
predicting people in the stadium. You just think people are going to you're going to have people give them away, and I think
I,
people are still going to show up.
I'm asking people should give them away if they don't like. I just, you don't need the money, you know.
There you go. It's the holiday season.
Yeah. All right. Um. I I don't really have any thoughts on Rutgers. I haven't really thought about much of the game because I've been thinking about the OC thing and the Michigan game so much. Um. I just hope that there's not a letdown. I'm interested to see how the team responds, particularly the offense. I think the defense is still going to be fine. And I am interested to see, like, I am interested in this little 3 game data science collection piece of what's different, what's not different about Penn State's game plan. Do they throw the ball over the middle? Do they, when something's working, stick with it? Do they throw it deeper more often? Um, and I
Well, the
think,
offense shouldn't have to do much. I mean,
yeah,
Rutgers was scoreless last weekend. They scored 16 points in the loss to Ohio State. They scored 13 points in the loss to Michigan State. So, or
well
no, I'm
done.
sorry, to Wisconsin. So it's not like there's some offensive juggernaut coming in here.
No, yeah,
Um, so I'm pretty confident the Penn State's defense will probably be able to do a decent job and keep that in somewhere between 0 and 18 at the most that they score. So if the offense can put up, a couple
20.
touchdowns and a field goal, they probably got a shot. Of course, if it's a couple touchdown and a field goal, then they've got to make a 2-point decision again, and then you're in trouble.
We're spiraling, folks. Told you this was going to be a therapy session, and we are
Uh,
spiraling. No, that's fair. That's fair. Although 18 points against, or what'd you say it was? 18 points against Ohio State?
16.
16 points. That's still 4 more points than Penn State scored against Ohio State.
That's fair. Fair.
No. So I don't know.
A
Yeah,
lot more if you don't count that last touchdown by Penn State that was a gimme against the backups.
that's true. That's true. I am excited for my annual tradition of getting some creamery ice cream. I hope that the creamery stand is open in the stadium on Saturday, because last year
Why
it was
wouldn't it be?
not.
Oh,
Last year it was not on the last game. Now I think the last game last year was after Thanksgiving, so it was even colder.
yeah.
But it's become a little tradition that I have. So
There you go.
saving that.
Traditions are good.
So anything else? Do you feel like you got everything else you needed to say about Penn State football out? I just want to make sure that we
Sure.
use this
I,
up.
I
Okay.
wasn't I just optimistic and positive about something.
It was weird. It's again Twilight Zone right now. All right. This week's old guy, young guy. Go ahead. It's your idea.
Well, I was pretty stressed earlier today, because the earphones that I've been using, which were free from a flight from Aer Lingus 3 or 4 years ago, because they plugged in, have died. They fell apart. They're dead. So I'm like, oh, I got 2 different things of earbuds. I'm just going to connect. It's going to be working. They're charged. I can't get either one of them to talk to my laptop. So I found this black pair. Those of you that aren't watching, listening, it's just a simple little black pair of earbuds that just plugs into my laptop or earphones. I can't make the wireless ones work. I'm challenged that way because I'm old, apparently.
I don't. I Anytime I'm on the computer, if you're again watching, I'm plugged in. Like I don't understand people that use the in ear Bluetooth, and I don't even. The only time I use the Bluetooth is when I'm at the gym, just because I have little in ear
They kind
ones
of
for
hard to
when
be
I'm at
plugged
the
in. Yeah.
gym. Um, I don't know. I like this over the ear thing. Do you like the over the ear thing, or are you?
I did. I don't have a pair, but these are fine. Like inside in the ear is good. The earbuds would be neat. I'd like to know how to use them. Like I'd like them to work for me. And then the times I think I did figure them out a couple of years ago, they're like sensitive on the bottoms is like how you turn them off when you pull
Mm-hmm.
them out. Sometimes they turn off. found whether I'm turned off. So I'm
Okay.
very happy for the cord.
All right. Well, maybe maybe somebody out there can get Steve some good headphones.
We need a headphone sponsor like we got a coffee sponsor, then we'll be in good
Um,
shape.
yeah, no. No, it's funny. Let me ask you this as a parent of two millennials, did your children want Beats by Dre, the very expensive headphones that
Mm-mm,
they were not about that life?
mm-mm.
Because I did, and that was like I think that was what I used my first collegiate check on, because back in the day, and then they broke within like less than a year. And it was $250 I spent on headphones. And that was the
No,
last time I will ever spend more than $50 on headphones.
right. No, the girls were not there for that. So no, that was a
Okay.
blessing.
Okay. That's good. But yeah, I like the over the ear thing. I know it makes me look a little weird on Zoom calls, but so all right. Anything else you want to add this week? Anything else we
No,
want to
two
discuss?
episodes. Man, I'm tired. We were working this week.
Grandpa times two now.
Grandpa
Congratulations,
times two. Maybe
Steve
that's why I'm
and
tired.
Danny.
That there you go.
Everybody else, good job. So yeah. Do you feel let me ask you this. Maybe we can. Do you feel better right now as we sit here than you did 5 o'clock when you gave me a telephone call for a welfare check to make sure I was doing okay on Saturday? You feel better
Yeah, I
about
mean,
Penn
I
State?
wasn't even that bad afterward because I went, said I'd pick him to win because I had, right? There I'm 11-1. But then when I looked at my little schedule that I keep of like who broadcast the game, final score, and just kind of keep tracking that in my spreadsheet, I had already penciled in an L. like when I signed in on Sunday to put the score, and I'm like, oh, I already had that down as an L. Why I was talking about them winning. So yeah, I mean, and you got the whole Michigan against everybody kind of stuff going on, and they have to believe that, and I'm glad they do, and good for them. But and it's not, and Penn State's not as good as Ohio State and Michigan at football right now, and they haven't been as
Right.
traditionally as good at them since they've joined the Big Ten. So this isn't some big revelation that as if they took something away from us. It's always been the case.
That's fair. Would a New Year's Six Bowl help you feel better, or would it just kind of mean nothing?
It doesn't mean. I mean, I hope they play at a time we can watch. Like right, like you know, I'm from the other podcast. I hope they have a game. Well, it's almost guaranteed there'll be a game on ESPN, right?
Right.
Because ESPN owns all the bowls. So I'm happy for Amanda to be able to do a Penn State game. Honestly, that's the biggest because we're probably not going to make a trip for a bowl game. You know, so no, just
Okay.
convenient time to watch and enjoy. How about you? Would it make you feel better?
I kind of like this whole like Penn State getting like the infinity gauntlet of New Year's Six non-playoff bowls. Like I like that. And they're gonna if they assumingly if they either go to the orange or the peach bowl, they would only not have two, or I would have only not been to two. And they've won the Cotton Rose Fiesta in the James Franklin span. So I don't know.
No, that's a good point.
I
I
like
mean,
that.
and there are football programs, many of them that would trade for the success they've had and whatever else, right? So I get it. But yeah, I don't think it makes a difference for me. It just means what are we going to watch on the 31st or the first or the second or whatever, whenever the game falls.
It's funny you said that because I keep thinking about that in the context of everything. And like we've got our relatives that are UCF fans, and like obviously they had their one 12-0 season there. But then they go kind of have a stinker season, and it just takes time to rebuild, and it's like, okay, like put it in put it in that perspective, and everybody would trade places with you. I think virtually most fans of college football teams that are sub 500 right now be like, yeah, I would take being the shot at being 10-2 with your losses to being to the number 1 and number 3 teams in the country right now.
Yeah,
Easy
even
any
some
day of the
teams that aren't
week.
sub 500, a lot of teams that aren't sub 500 would take that, right?
Right.
In terms of Penn State football, you're going to win 10 games a year. You're going to host one of the most hype games every year with the whiteout, right? You're going to be relevant. People would take that. It's just, I think for Penn State fans, it's the frustration of year after year after year of being Charlie Brown and Lucy pulling the football away, right? And Michigan and Ohio State standing there saying, we still got the football and you don't.
That's pretty much what it is. All right. Not a Peanuts reference because I love a good Peanuts reference. Anything else?
I try.
All right. All right. 5 stars, thumbs up, subscribe over here. Appreciate everybody that's been liking videos lately. That's very helpful for the algorithm. So that's good. We'll have the normal schedule of content on the blog this week. That blog can be found at stuffsummersays.com. On that blog, there's a section called
Steve.
with Steve. We've got emails. Mine's Darian at stuffsummersays.com. Steve's got an email. It's
Steve at stuffsummersays.com.
um we've got stuff.
After I fumbled that like the very first week, I've gotten much better at that.
You've gotten way better at that. I'm really proud of you.
Yeah.
We've got stuff. You can buy stuff. I might indulge in the holiday spirit of Black Friday sales next week. That's all I'll say. Might knock off a few bucks. Save you every penny that we can. But hey, our low prices already can't be beat by any other blog in town.
That's true.
That's a great ad.
No lie there.
So other than that, we've got Twitter handles. X handles. I'm not going to say X handles. I can't do that seriously. They're called Twitter handles. And mine is at Stuff Summer Says. Steve says
at Steve Sampson.
All right. Hope you feel better after our therapy session.
I always feel good at this.
Good.
Good. Are you better?
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Second wellness check in like 4 days. Okay, just checking.
Yeah. All right. Goodbye.